Hallo miteinander, I'm Gashady6, and this is Metroid II Return of Samus. Last time we cleared out all of Sector 7, and we geared up to the brim, ready for anything that awaits us. I hope. We also took care of some evil babies, the kind that you wouldn't want to sit for all the money in the world. No, I'm not talking about the one living next door to you. The entrance to our next destination, Sector 8, happens to be very close nearby. It's going to be one of those intermission sectors again. Short, straightforward, but maybe with one or the other surprise. We've just passed the part where there would have been acid before, and we're getting deeper than ever before into the planet. I always thought about things like that as a kid while playing this game. Yes, the whole exploration was very vivid to me. If you don't have any nostalgia for this game, that may be difficult to understand, but that's just how it was. Imagination is the best storyteller. Just then, we killed a few specimens of a new enemy type, which is called Scorp. Scorp may have a pretty cool artwork in the game's manual, but in the game he's pretty underwhelming. Stationary, brainless, just going in and out of the wall. In one word, forgettable. But they do have something going for them. They drop missile pickups. Only a handful of enemies in the game actually do this, and the Scorp has pretty much the highest population of these. So they are a good source for a quick refill. How one would get high explosives from the body of a scorpion is beyond me. Well, maybe Samus' suit has the power to synthesize missiles from very specific alien guts. Listen to me again, trying to make sense out of something like that. This time, I think I should admit defeat. This time, the answer is video game logic. You may not have even noticed, but we have just entered Sector 8. This sector seems to be so insignificant that it doesn't even have its own music. It just uses the SR388 main theme. Looking at the sector's design, it really doesn't have anything defining going for it. The best that I could think of is that it wraps around like a circle. So following the path will always lead you back to the entrance. Oh well, at least it gives us a Metroid to fight. I mean, it's gotta have one somewhere. What kind is it? It is an Alpha Metroid. Really? Let us just pretend you would get killed by this guy. You are never allowed to play Metroid 2 ever again. Really, I'm banning you from it, so don't you dare. Well, this earthquake means that there was nothing else to Sector 8. What a pointless and forgettable sector. There was absolutely nothing special about it, and I'm totally not crossing my fingers behind my back, nope. So, I guess we're just going to move along on our merry way, killing a few of these Moto, with style of course, and we're gonna move along to Sector 9, I guess. It seems to me that the Metroids have finally accepted their fate, and that they no longer try to fight back against the mighty Steel Hunters. Wait, what is this? An acid lake. Yes, we are trapped in now. The acid hasn't been flushed, it has risen instead. So, yeah, we cannot get out of Sector 8 now. You may be a little bit frightened and stumped on what to do here, but I've got some good news. Once you see that acid lake, the game will remember and set a flag. So at this point, all we need to do is keep following the circle, and eventually the game may give us the answers that we need. Come to think of it, weren't there 2 broken Metroid shells in here? We should have known that there was something out of the ordinary, and that something is a brand new evolution of Metroid, the Omega Metroid. With how annoying the Zeta Metroids were, you must be thinking that this bulky monstrosity is even more terrifying. Nope. Omega Metroids are arguably easier to fight than Zeta Metroids, and that's for a number of reasons. They may be more powerful, but they're a lot less agile and have a longer reaction time. They also seem a lot less tenacious when they're chasing after you. Usually hitting them with a screw attack a little calms them down. And finally, they also have a pattern that is easy to remember. They will usually rush after you, then they will wait. After that little break, they will spit exactly 2 globs of acid towards you, and then they will come after you again. If you look at our health now, we really didn't lose all that much this time. So yeah, no big deal. The earthquake says that we are now done with Sector 8. Hopefully, we don't know just yet, maybe the game has another trick up its sleeve, but Yeah. Thinking back to that confining acid pool, that is an example for a technique that is extremely iconic for Metroid games. A kind of silent communication with the player. Metroid 1 and 2 did it a little, but Super Metroid really perfected this when they just suddenly put you in confusing or frightening situations. For example, when you first got the bombs in Super Metroid and the Chozo statue awakened, not only would the door lock you in, but you also stayed in control for the whole time. Wouldn't just have the same effect with a cutscene. And also when you explore the wrecked ship for the first time and everything was dead and empty. Yeah, those scenes are what makes that game just one of the greatest games of all time, but let us stop with the gushing right there, because that's not the game that we're playing at the moment. Getting back to the action, once again we have entered a room that is very easy to break with a combination of space jump and screw attack. I really love those two items. I especially love the sound they make when you're using them. It is the trademarked sound of kicking butt. Some people may find it grating, but to those people I just say, I really don't understand your weak complaints. No, seriously, I physically cannot hear you over the sound of how awesome Samus is right now. In this upcoming climb, we can meet a new victim for said screw attack, the peculiar Glowfly. May not be the most original name, but at least it's English for a change. The Glowfly is remarkable in that it really tries to camouflage itself. It's not being very successful at it right now, but I still think it's nice that they made an enemy with such a realistic survival strategy. We have finally arrived in Sector 9, and the atmosphere has gotten even darker and more dangerous. This sector holds a total of 3 Metroids, and you can bet that none of them are going to be the old, outdated ones. No sir! Apart from that, Sector 9 does not have a ruins section, but it still feels like a proper area. It's probably best comparable to Sector 4, the underground part, but not as big and not as confusing, just all in all on a smaller scale. The thing that I find most intriguing about this area though is that there are very few small critters around, almost none. This seems like a strange decision for being so late in the game, but I think I know what they were going for. They must have wanted to say that this is the Metroid's turf. We know that they are the dominant predator of this planet, and this is just so deep in their territory that nothing that goes here will stay for a long time. You could say that we have entered the lion's den. That's the ugliest lion that I've ever seen, but going back to the Omega Metroids, they can take a colossal 40 missiles to kill, but you might have noticed that the first one we fought didn't take nearly as many. That is because they have a weak point. See that disgustingly deformed hunchback they're having? That is where you can hit them for a longer hit stun and more than double damage. Ideally, you can kill an Omega Metroid in only 15 shots. That is less than a Zeta Metroid, and another reason why they're just not as terrifying as those. Once an Omega Metroid is exhausted from its previous assault and has to recover, you should have the time to get around it and blast a few into its weak spot. Just like we were able to back there. We didn't even take a single hit during that fight. That is something we can actually be proud of. Just goes to show that Samus is a tough girl, a real warrior princess. I've got to say, I still find it astounding how big of a deal it was when Samus was revealed as a female after the first Metroid. If you beat it in a good enough time, of course. I mean, nowadays you really couldn't impress anyone with a twist like that. Nope. But those were the 80s. Times were still different back then. A lot simpler. In fact, it must have been really magical to find out for yourself, without being spoiled, that Samus is indeed a woman. You'd grab the phone and bring the news to everyone you knew. Listen bro, I just breezed Metroid and Samus is like a babe.
Bogus, dude. Chicks aren't playable in video games, no way!
Yes way, man. She had almost nothing on. You could totally see the bare skin on her legs.
Tubular-licious. Fire up the NES, because I'm gonna HOP right over.
Ah, good times. That is, by the way, exactly how people from the 80s talked. I know so from a fact, because the media says so, right? Anyway, We've been doing pretty well so far this video. We've actually been doing well pretty much any video. I didn't tell you before what time we needed to get the best ending of this game, and I'm not going to. If you don't happen to know what time we're aiming for, that is good, and I'm going to leave you in suspense. Another Omega Metroid. These guys have been easy picking so far, so we will do well against this one, right? Must have been the mindset I was in, because that is exactly when hubris will dive in for the prey. First of all, I was really underestimating the splash radius of the Omega Metroid's acidic spit, and then I also seemed incredibly eager for free hugs. Must have been really lonely that day. Another problem one can have, and that I did, was I didn't use the screw attack in the right way. You have to be very careful in stopping the Omega Metroid's rush with it, because if you only lightly brush him, it'll work, but if you get hung up on him, you will keep provoking the Omega Metroid and he will never stop attacking you. We've already lost more than an E-tank, but luckily, all is well that ends well. We may be able to regain all that health that we lost, not right now, but later. All in all, this still had a point to it. Despite me telling you that Omega Metroids are comparably easier than Zeta Metroids, you still should never ever underestimate them. Keep to their pattern and everything should go a lot smoother than what you just witnessed. Right here is a critter that will get almost no screen time from me. Ramulkin is a little bit tricky to handle if you don't use the screw attack or if you can't go on a platform below him. The thing is, everything but his underside is well armored, so you have to get under him to actually kill him. Most of the time that is not even worth it, so ignore him if you can. So those guys aside, we keep advancing towards the very lower right corner of the map. What does this place hold for us? Another Metroid, of course, and once again it is an Omega Metroid. Yes, you might have suspected it, but the Zeta Metroids have indeed died out with Sector 7. That is something that I'm sure everyone will appreciate greatly, although a little bit of challenge never hurt anyone. Speaking of a challenge, the Omega Metroids would actually be less challenging if they couldn't float, an ability that I always thought was somewhat unfitting to them. And apparently Nintendo thought so as well, because the Omega Metroid in Metroid Fusion could no longer float. That Omega Metroid was even less agile than the ones here. The explanation for this was that he had mutated. So, is this thing going to give up anytime soon? There you go. Good boy. Eat it, Quasimodo. Oh, sorry about that. That was really insensitive of me. I hope you accept my apology, and if your name happens to be Quasimodo, please don't take offense to that. Instead, go pull your parents to the nearest courthouse. Well, well, with this earthquake, we know that we have cleared another sector, and seeing that our Metroid counter shows 1, it should be obvious that the next episode is going to be the very final one. Before we stop for the day, I wanted to show you another save point that is nearby. It's not really efficient for us to go to, because we've only saved a few minutes ago, but still, I wanted to show it for the sake of showing it. Who knows, maybe things will be different for you. I'm Gish86, this was Metroid II, Return of Samus, and next time we will bring total extinction to the Metroids. Bis bald!